Dear brothers and sisters who have joined this call from around the world, on behalf of the entire Annapoorna team, loving Sairams, I wish you all a very warm welcome to this special webinar on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanthi, which was yesterday. At the outset, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Girish Suryanarayana, and I work as a principal key expert in the area of artificial intelligence at Siemens Research. I've been associated with Annapurna for the last 8 years, and I think you would have also seen me in the previous Annapurna webinars. So before I commence today, I would like to first offer my most humble obeisance to our master, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, and prostrations to our Guru, Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. October 2nd is the birthday of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, also lovingly known as the father of the nation and by the name Mahatma Gandhi. And when we think about the name Mahatma Gandhi, it conjures up many images in our minds of India's massive and mass-based independence movement, his faith and conviction in the principle of non-violence, the numerous satyagrahas, that is the non-violent resistance movements against the incumbent British rule in India, the 400-kilometer long Dandi March through which he led people to challenge the British imposed salt tax, and the numerous years he spent in prison and sacrificed his life during the freedom struggle. How much Mahatma Gandhi sacrificed for his country while living a very simple life can only be understood when somebody reads and his entire life history. His lifestyle, while simple, hid behind it his highly disciplined and spiritual life. And it is truly worthy of admiration and adoration. Therefore, keeping all his contributions and sacrifices in mind, on behalf of the entire Annapurna family, I want to offer a heartfelt tribute to our beloved and respected Mahatma Gandhiji. And while we remember all that he did for the country and for us, let us not forget what he said about himself. He said, "Some people think I'm a social reformer. Some people think I'm a politician. But actually, I'm a simple man in search of God." What a beautiful, humble person Gandhiji was. Bapuji, as we also call him, meaning father of the nation, had toured the entire country. And during his extensive tour, he realized that 70% of India lives in its villages. And therefore, the soul and the future of India lies in its villages. And if India had to become independent and self-reliant, that is, free itself from the rule of the British, its villages needed to first become self-reliant while maintaining a certain amount of interdependence amongst themselves. So he gave a clarion call to all the citizens living in cities, and he told them, "Take the village people and slum dwellers in your hands and give them the benefit of your knowledge, skill, insight, constructive work, and patriotic spirit." What was he essentially doing? He was basically motivating everyone to offer what they had received from the society back to where its need was utmost, in the villages where the poor people dwelled. He also said, "Give the people this true education through the example of your own lives." What he was recommending is that the city dwellers do not go and preach to the villagers merely, but in fact, by the way they behave, they talk, their mannerisms and their attitude, they can actually transform these villages. It's only when you go and stay with them as one among them will there be transformation in them. And what a selfless clarion call it was when he said, "Let all your activities be directed to the welfare of the people." Let's know the word all. He said all your activities, not just 10% or 20% of your activities. Truly, these words reflect his indomitable spirit of selflessness and service. Knowing that India does not live in its towns, but in its villages, he exhorted the people that if the cities wanted to demonstrate that their populations will live for the villages of India, most of their time, energy, and resources should be spent in improving the condition of the poor people and befriending them. And he cautioned that the city people should not get blinded by the power of secular education and treat the villagers as servants and exploit them. Instead, with the attitude of a humble servant, They must employ all their skills and knowledge in serving the underprivileged. Gandhiji knew that it would be quite difficult for people to follow the path that he had laid down for making villages self reliant. So he stressed on self belief as the foundation. And as you can see in the slide, he said, if I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. These are very powerful words, the truth of which we have seen in Annapurna. Many of the Annapurna volunteers, when they first came to the breakfast program and saw what was happening, they questioned whether they had the ability and the capacity to also participate and contribute, given all their challenges. But once they deep dived into the breakfast service, they started developing the belief that they can do it. And that is how Annapurna was able to expand from serving 60 students in 2012 to 500,000 students today. Also, based on his experience from visiting villages across the country, Bapuji realized that there were three main problems plaguing the villages and so prescribed a three-step approach for the self-reliance of the villages. First, sanitation. Gandhiji understood that without proper sanitation practices in the village, there was a higher chance of disease occurring and the child mortality rates were high. Tied into this aspect was also the aspect of nutrition, because without proper diet and nutrition, the immunity goes down and it also results in higher instances of diseases and illness. And most importantly, Gandhiji understood the attitude of the villagers. He realized that they had a certain inertia. They had just learned to live with their problems, and they thought that somebody else would come and rescue them out of their problems. So he realized it's important to rouse them out of their inertia and get them engaged in solving their own problems. And for this, he wanted the people living in the cities to come and visit the villages and work with these villagers hand in hand to improve their condition. In fact, Annapurna's holistic approach towards rural uplift and ideal village has been inspired by and is in close alignment with Gandhiji's approach. Annapurna starts with nutrition by providing breakfast to the school children in government schools in the villages. And we do this definitely because it helps promote the cognitive and physical growth of children. But also along the way, somewhere, Annapurna realized that by providing the free food to the village children, lowered the approach barrier in the village. What I mean is, when the villagers saw that Annapurna volunteers were coming from, places that were far away, and daily providing free, hot, delicious breakfast to their village children, they opened their hearts and became open to other initiatives that Annapurna wanted to introduce. For instance, Annapurna, after the nutrition program introduction, follows up with a health and medical checkup of the children to ensure that the children are in good state and to take some necessary actions if required. Now, via these camps, our volunteers got an idea of the prevailing health conditions in the villages, the lack of hygiene and nutrition practices, and they could take suitable steps to address these issues. For example, in consultation with the doctors, our volunteers were able to provide either supplements or deworming medicines to the children, or help any of the village needy to get to the nearest tertiary healthcare provider when needed. Annapurna also supplements its nutrition and health check activities with educational activities. In particular, Annapurna volunteers are working with government school teachers in a program called Guru Vikas program to assist the professional and spiritual development of these teachers. And why we are doing this is because Annapurna has realized that the transformation of the teachers is critical so that the school children, their parents, and the entire village community can transform. Truly, teachers play a very important role in the entire community transformation. Also, understanding that women play a critical role in the well-being of society and the country, Annapurna has also undertaken many initiatives. For instance, Annapurna is providing SciSure for pregnant and lactating women. SciSure is a multi-nutrient supplement. Annapurna has also facilitated skill-based training and employment for women. And this helps them realize their full potential and play their parts as equals of men, as Gandhiji said. One of the key outcomes of organizing medical camps is that Annapurna comes to know of the quality of drinking water and sanitation in the villages. And based on the suggestions of doctors from these camps, Annapurna has been able to provide infrastructure to these villages either by installing reverse osmosis based water plants or construction of toilets. I will talk more about this further on in the presentation. Annapurna also plans to tap in solar energy to meet the electricity needs of villages which have disrupted power supply. This is very commonly seen in our remote villages. Fortunately, India is blessed with a lot of sunlight, and so there is a lot of potential to tap solar energy for a number of needs. The idea with all these initiatives essentially is to be able to penetrate into the hearts of the villagers so they can become receptive to counseling and the guidance offered by the volunteers. And this is very necessary because still today there are a number of bad habits and social evils prevalent in the villages like alcoholism, physical abuse, neglect of girl child. And it's important that these be eradicated from the village. So our goal here behind all these initiatives and activities is to eventually inspire these villagers to gradually transform themselves both mentally as well as spiritually. And our end objective through these initiatives is the realization of an Adarsh Gram or ideal village, where the village is self-reliant, just like Gandhiji said, prosperous, healthy, and has a positive, vibrant community that can have an impact on all the neighboring villages. Out of these various dimensions of Annapurna's holistic approach, I would just like to focus on three aspects today that help tackle the triple malady that Gandhiji said affects our villages. Sanitation initiatives, specifically, I'll talk about the RO water plants and toilets. With respect to nutrition, I'll provide a very quick summary of the Annapurna morning nutrition program. And with respect to the inertia in the villages, I'll talk about volunteerism and how with the very unique integrated rural development program which Annapurna has launched, we are able to tackle this problem. So let's start with the RO water plants. Annapurna has constructed a number of RO water plants with a dual objective. The first was to ensure supply of good drinking water, but also we wanted to ensure no wastage. So what we did was each family in the village received a smart card, and they could use the smart card to get 20 liters of drinking water every 24 hours. And with this, we have been able to reach out to about 4 lakh villagers across 25 villages and have been able to provide them drinking water. Also, in alignment with the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Annapurna has constructed toilets in many villages. Here you see an example of toilets constructed in Vinayak Nagar, which is located in the outskirts of South Bangalore, and in Mailapanahalli village in Chikbalapur Taluk. Our volunteers also ensure that every time they visit the schools, they try to imbibe in the children the importance of hygiene, cleanliness, and waste management. We also organize cleanliness drives at schools and provide dustbins to schools. We have already talked about Annapurna's flagship morning nutrition programs in the previous webinars. So I'll just quickly summarize here. So as you may already be aware, we are providing morning nutrition in the form of either solid breakfast or Sure, which is a multi-nutrient supplement that can be very easily mixed with milk and given to children in the morning, or biscuits and bananas. And we are doing this to, we are providing this to 500,000 children across 17 states and 3 union territories. And if I look back to the journey of Annapurna, I'm reminded of how Gandhiji said, you can gently shake the world. It is not always necessary to do something awesome and earth-shattering that catches everyone's attention. But it is also possible to achieve the same effect by working in a quiet and steady manner. And Annapurna had a very similar start. We started very quietly with just one village in 2012. And today, it has become a Jana Andolan, a people's movement, because a number of people across the state of society and from across regions have joined us to achieve this scale. The third and final aspect is volunteerism. Now, not only do Annapurna volunteers regularly engage themselves in the villages to serve the villagers, but also continuously seek ways to engage others, especially the youth in the service activities. And the Integrated Rural Development Program, or IRDP for short, is one such way. How Annapurna is encouraging college students to participate in the village development. So the motivation behind the integrated rural development program is that, of course, we want to uplift our villages and provide more development into the villages. But also from another perspective, if you look at our college students, they are focused on secular education and they remain largely unaware of the things that are going around them, and specifically of the problems and challenges, which are numerous, by the way, that are facing society. And on the other hand, these college students are the ones who have the energy, the skills, the ability, and the capacity to make an impact and address these challenges. And but there is no way to leverage this properly. But if we could leverage this, then these skills could be applied to transform our villages and thus our country. And in the process, these college students would also benefit and transform themselves. So, with this in mind, the IRDP objective was to enable students to gain an awareness of the existing challenges in rural areas of India. And when they go to the villages, so we wanted to take them to the villages so that they can go and see what's going on and interact with these villagers, communicate with them, and be able to develop a sense of empathy, be able to relate to all their problems, and then think how they can apply what they have learned to help address those particular problems. And in this process, improve their communication skills, foster their leadership and problem solving skills, which can actually help them if they want to become entrepreneurs in the future, and build self confidence, which will help them and put them in good stead. So we are actually working on this topic of IRDP with 3 higher education institutions. But the one that I would like to talk about today is with the Nagarjuna College of Engineering and Technology. And we rolled out this program in 2017 September. So we framed a 1 credit course consisting of a 3-hour lecture orientation session and 24 hours of practical work, including visits to villages. So what we do in IRDP is basically, at Nagarjuna College, is we took this, or we regularly take the 600 engineering students across disciplines in groups to the villages, so they can survey and understand the problems in the villages. So you can see here that the college students are interacting with the village school students, understanding the problems related to their families, homes, and school infrastructure. You can also see college students are making door-to-door visits, collecting information about the problems in the village. And also some of these students, college students, reported that they felt sad and helpless to see the state of some of the villagers who are living in abject poverty. And the effect of all of this is that when they returned back from the village survey, many of them were motivated to work on projects beyond the scope of the curriculum to help address some of the issues that they had discovered. These students were divided into groups and worked on small projects and returned to the villages to execute the projects. And I'll give you a quick glimpse into some of these. So one example of a project was in one of these schools here that you see, the Nagarjuna students, college students, observed that the government school children were having their midday meals in paper plates, which were just thrown away after every meal. And so they were not very environment friendly. So these college students felt really bad. And so they pooled in their pocket money and procured steel plates, which they distributed to all the school children in that village. Definitely the children were happy, but you can see here from the picture that the college students looked doubly happy after this loving service. Another project was where the Nagarjuna students got their laptops. And this was pretty exciting for the government school children. And because they got introduced to computers, laptops, internet, and these college students showed these young children how this could be used in daily life. And we're also, motivating them to study further. If you ask a typical village school student, what he wants to become when he grows up, he will likely say policeman, because his exposure to what can be done when you grow up is limited to the movies that he has seen. And a lot of the movies, the policeman is the hero. So the Nagarjuna students realized that this is something that they needed to address, and in order to educate these children about other career opportunities, the college students made a presentation. Here you can see on the possible educational and career options, that can be pursued after the 10th standard, like law, business, finance, engineering, and medicine. Here is another case where you can see that the college students observed that the school children were writing with broken pencils, and some of the school children didn't even have necessary stationery items. So, feeling very touched, the Nagarjuna students pooled their pocket money again and presented each school student with a notebook and a pouch containing stationery items. You can very well see the effect of this surprise gift by marking the delight on the children's faces as they pose here. Also, some college students, painstakingly spend time trying to understand the math and English grammar capability of the children. And also, you can see here they try to do a one-on-one coaching to teach the children who are struggling. I would also like to show you a short video now of one such project execution in the Kuduvati village in Chikbalapur Taluk.
ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಸ್ವಚ್ಛತೆಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅರಿವು ಮೂಡಿಸಲು ನಾಟಕದ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಪಾತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಭುವಾಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜು ತಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಿಂದ ಶಾಲೆಯ ಕರೆಗೆ
ಬರಿದಾಗುವ ಮುನ್ನ ಬದಲಾಗೋಣ, ನೀರನ್ನು ಮಿತವಾಗಿ ಬಳಸೋಣ, ಶುಚಿಗೊಳಿಸಿ ಪುನಃ ಬಳಕೆ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಮಳೆ ನೀರನ್ನು ಸಂರಕ್ಷಿಸೋಣ.
ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ, ಇದರಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು?
ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸು ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ನಾಟಕದ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಆಗಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಆಂಡ್ರಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ನು ಯಾವ ಥರ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ರು.
ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ? ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏಡ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಪ್ರಥಮ ಚಿಕಿತ್ಸೆ ಡಬ್ಬ. ಈ ಡಬ್ಬದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಕಾಟನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಡೆಟಾಲ್. ಇದನ್ನ
ನಮ್ಮ ಶಾಲೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಳವಾಗಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೀಡು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ವರ್ಡ್ ಹೀಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಥನೂ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೀಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ರೀತಿಯನ್ನು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಯಿತು. ಮತ್ತು ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಯಾವ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ದೈನಂದಿನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಬಳಸಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದು
ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಕಲಿತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದರಿಂದ ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಮಿಲ್ಕ್, ಕರ್ಡ್, ಬಟರ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್, ಖೋವಾ, ಚೀಸ್, ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್?
So I hope you all enjoyed watching this lovely, heartwarming video. And I'm also sure the glowing faces of the children in the video that you saw will continue to linger in your memory even after this session is over. See, it's so much fun to go and interact with all these school children and feed them breakfast. I also want to point out that while these projects are small in scope, we have seen that there's a multi-dimensional impact on the village and even the children. Right. So, of course, there is some value add. The children are learning something, their awareness is increasing about certain topics. But also we could feel that the villagers are feeling that these college students are coming from their college and they care about them and they care about their children. Also the school children start looking at the college students as role models because they see their, so these college students are like their elder brothers and sisters who are now in college. And so the school students feel motivated to continue their schooling beyond the 10th and 12th grade into college. So, we have covered the three aspects in line with what Bapuji, Mahatma, Gandhiji told us. And so in summary, I would like to say that while it takes a village to raise a child, what we are trying to do here is to raise an entire village because we are trying to make the village self-reliant. So we are trying to transform the entire village. And this is not easy. And it requires all of us to join hands and work together towards this goal. I'm sure, that many of you in the audience would like to do something similar. but don't know where to start. There are a lot of doubts and questions in the mind. And so what I would like to do is, in this final part of the presentation, present some of Bapuji's illuminating thoughts and reflect on what they mean. Especially, I will also try to take examples from Annapurna so that you can relate much more easily. And I hope these will inspire all of us. So the first quote is that the future depends on what you do today. So basically, if you have dreams to change the world in the future, it is very important to invest in the current moment, because that is all that you have control over. Investing is not limited here. When I say investing, it's not limited to just having the right thoughts, but also practicing the right attitude and the right behavior. So, to go back to the example of Annapurna, the selfless love that Annapurna volunteers developed when they first participated in Breakfast Seva is what holds them in good stead even today when the scale is much larger. So that investment or the practicing of the selfless love towards just a few children by offering them food is the same love that is sustaining the program today. So definitely the future depends on what you do today. Another thing is that, Gandhiji as an individual showed a lot of self-discipline, which he maintained throughout his life. This is evident from his biography. And one thing remarkable was, before he advised others something, he made sure that he practiced that advice first himself. So, for example, before he asked others to change, he first changed his own habits. There's an example given in many places that he used to undertake long fasts to purify himself before asking others to purify themselves. I would like to humbly admit that our Annapurna volunteers have been greatly inspired by this message of Gandhiji. And we are very conscious of the fact that while we want to transform the nation via nutrition, keeping in mind Gandhiji's example, we also want to first transform ourselves so that we become much better human beings and much more selfless human beings. And our volunteers believe that the change starts with us. And if we change, we can truly change the world. So these are some small tips. I'm sharing these quotes so that you can start practicing this in your life, and you can see the impact that it will have. And I would like to leave you with these really final, powerful thoughts. A lot of us are trying to, discover ourselves in the world and on the spiritual path. And here, let's look at what Gandhiji is saying. He says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. What a beautiful message. And what Gandhiji is saying here is that, as you start thinking less and less about yourself and your problems, and think more and more about others and their problems, you start to become more selfless. So, if you practice less of self today, and then again less of self tomorrow, and then day after tomorrow less of self, over time, you start to, with the less of self, you start to become selfless, right? And when we become selfless, he's saying we will get a glimpse into who we truly are and what is our purpose in life. And I believe he is saying this here based on his own experiences. And so we have to walk this path to truly understand who we are and what is our purpose in life. So let us all keep these profound words in our heart and resolve to also become selfless and commit to serving the villages in some way or the other. In conclusion, I hope you enjoyed the session today. I know it was a short session, but I hope nevertheless, there were things that we can ponder about and practice in our life. And before we end, I would like to request all the viewers who have joined us to kindly share your experience and feedback. We also hope that you will remember to join us again for the next webinar on 17th October at 6:30 a.m. IST. And the time is so that we can accommodate all the people around the world. Until then, the Annapurna team wishes you all the best and hopes you and your families stay safe and healthy. Jai Sai Ram.